Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next installment of Azure Cloud Talk. I'm one of your hosts, Alec Harrison, here with Brian. How's it going, Brian?
Fantastic, wonderful, and awesome all at once.
Pretty chipper today. That's maybe a new one. Not
Yeah.
I hear you've gone back to the teaching profession and less technology, maybe day in and day out, or slinging code. Has that got you in a good mood, or how's that going?
Well, it's still slinging code, but it's the stuff that I love. So it's the hey, this is how you set up your machine, and this is how you make Git work, and this is how you make C# work, and taking it from the ground up. So it's not, hey, we've got this really strange scenario on our really strange system that we need you to come in and figure out what the heck's going on with our really strange thing that we did wrong but don't want to admit it. And no, I shouldn't say that because they didn't really do it wrong. They just did their thing, right? I went a little far on that. How about we backtrack that to just say it's much more straightforward than client work where you got to figure a lot more out in the real world. Academic work is always easier in my mind.
Yeah, because there's generally a right-ish way. Client work can get confusing too because it can be compounding, right? Like maybe historically there was multiple ways to do something, and then like somewhere in the iteration of technology, the way they did it became the wrong way, or maybe like not the preferred way. And
Right.
then you slowly transition from, hey, that's no longer not the not preferred way anymore. That's just wrong.
Yeah. So that reminds me of a conversation I was having this morning while doing some client work, but not for a client, just a speculation around access and identity. And I don't know about all of you out there listening to this in the wonderful cloud world. Unless you're an identity expert, identity to me always feels like a push and pray scenario. And it's just like, does this thing work? I don't know. I think so. So, okay, let's set up this identity and access management stuff. Okay, we got this thing. We got this thing. That seems like it should work. Oh, can't log in. Okay, tweak this thing. Okay, can't log in. Okay, tweak this. Oh, you're logging in. Okay, leave it. Don't touch it. It's going to fall apart. Nobody's going to be able to log in. And like you're saying now, that's probably all hackable and wrong, right? So we have to figure out the right way to do it. But I don't know.
Well, and I see even in different tools, right? That changes. You had even in the Microsoft space, right? We had ADAL, which was the authentication provider of choice for Microsoft stuff. Then it went to MSOL. A lot of things are moving from user specific credentials to system managed identities. And there's also like different phases of that. I was even demoing last night Azure OpenAI to the Lansing user group. And by default, the UI keeps trying to make you use system managed identity when you're trying to connect like your search index to Azure OpenAI. It doesn't work if you use the wizard. Like it always
Okay.
fails for an exception because like I think it doesn't have permissions to basically do roles or something. I don't know. I haven't dug into it too much. I'm like, I can totally see where they're going, right? Where system managed identity is probably going to be the only way to do this in long term, but it's going to be a little bit harder. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. But like everything I've built historically, because managed identity didn't used to be a connector, right?
Okay.
All the AI work I've done to date is all doing credentials. So I get the password, put it in my secret store. That's how you access it.
Okay.
I'm sure if we fast forward 2 or 3 years, it's going to be like, why are we using passwords? That's dumb. What
Well,
idiot does that?
that's the same thing that's happening. It's kind of across the board. It feels like even, for example, Key Vault in itself. Like in Key Vault, they want you to not use the policies, or maybe they don't. Maybe they don't care, but it feels like they want you to default to RBAC roles now instead of um, connection strings and things like that, right? So
Yeah.
like or specific user. So you can still, I suppose, do group management and stuff, but it's all like now go put it under the RBAC policy instead of the traditional policy, or like if you're going to connect to something else, instead of using the connection string now, use RBAC roles, right? So you in a system managed identity, exactly what you're saying. Like so maybe like app config instead of having a connection string to the app config, now you're going to actually put in the app config data reader role and use a system managed identity to do that going forward. And I get it and I don't mind it. It's just like you said, now I've got all this legacy code that may or may not work in 2 years,
Well, we've seen that too with
4 years.
SQL Server, right? Like they've tried to go passwordless. They don't want an administrative password running on your SQL Server. They want you to use management groups and system managed identities to allow, conversation on the backbone of Azure. So you have your groups and roles, people in that, and then they can access your SQL Server based on roles instead of, instead of using the connection string username password that maybe has too much permissions.
I don't know.
Don't get me wrong, there's benefits, right? Like I've worked at organizations that forget to rotate their passwords that expire every 6 months and prod goes down and nobody knows why until the one guy's like, when was the last time we did a password update?
Yeah.
So passwordless is nice, but then you have old code that you eventually have to cut over, and passwordless is probably a very specific example. You could probably then start layering those at corporations, right? Of EF Core is a good one, right? If we're still in the SQL Server world, you have DB first versus code first. Maybe you did DB first when that was like okay-ish paradigm. Maybe it was like they didn't really care. Then it's moving to now code first is kind of the first class citizen. Then you move to moving away from connection strings to managed identities. Just keep compounding this tech debt because like you've made the few opinionated choices that now maybe you're not in line with what the industry is saying best practices are per se. And then you have some fun if anything ever breaks or they decide like, hey, that's not only not the preferred way anymore, we're just going to break it so you can't use it anymore because it's bad for X, Y, and Z reason. And a lot of companies know when they've decided something and why it's not the industry best practice. They just don't want to take the time and effort to, repair it because it's either maybe a legacy system they're planning to replace or it just runs and doesn't need any maintenance.
I think a lot of it is that we all kind of live with these house of cards scenarios. Like I really just feel like the push to get things done quickly and under deadlines leads to we find something that works, we run with it, and it maybe isn't the best solution, like you're saying, but it becomes a very quick house of cards where if you pull the Jenga thing out, like you were talking about offline on certain projects, like if you pull the wrong peg from the Jenga tower, it's going to all come tumbling down, and then it becomes this glass house of cards where you just don't want to touch it, right? Can we just leave that alone? And now they're changing something. Oh boy, here we go, right? I do think Microsoft does give like really good advanced warning when they're going to like pull the pin on something for most things. I do think sometimes code standards, like they might change a method name or something and you're just like, oh, that came out of the blue. But other than that, I don't know. I think they do a pretty good job sending emails of like, hey, this thing's going away. Now, granted, sometimes it feels like there's so many you don't necessarily register them until you're at the last 11th hour. It's like, oh, that's changing in October. It's September. I better do something.
Like when you're making a talk for a user group and trying to connect to Azure through GitHub Action.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, I definitely could see that of just like message fatigue of stuff like that. I did get a message. I've gotten a few Azure notifications lately of different things going away or changing, and I'm like, well, I'm not using that, so I don't know if I really care. And just like keep moving on with my life, and I just keep getting them. There's another one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about because I've been getting them all day, like the last 3 days, and it's just like I don't think I have anything that uses that, or if it does, it shouldn't be. And then it's like, well, why don't they just like scrub my subscription and only send this email if I need to see it?
Yeah. Like, is this just a proactive warning, or do I need to like go dig in my stuff? But I'm in the same boat as you. Is like, if it is using it, it shouldn't be, or it's something I don't care about. So if it breaks, who cares?
Right. I might notice it in 3 years if I ever try to run that thing again. And it's like, oh, I forgot this was even out here. Oh, it's not working. Okay, just delete it.
Like, oh, bummer. It's broken. Whatever will I do?
Yeah. My demo website from 2012 still doesn't work. I don't know what's wrong.
And you've built 12 of them since then, so who cares?
Right. See, this is how old I'm getting. 2012 doesn't seem that long ago to me. And that's like a long freaking time ago now.
Okay, boomer.
I know. I'm getting old. One of the conversations we had before this is what should we talk about, and I said old grumpy guy rage, but Alec vetoed that, so we're not going to go down that path.
I'm trying to think of. I think I was a sophomore in high school in 2012.
Jeez.
Maybe freshman even, if that makes you feel better. Doing some back of the envelope mental math, so don't quote me on that. But it was around. I was in high school, definitely.
See, this is what's bothering me. I saw a thing today that if Marty McFly went back 30 years from today, it would be 1994, which is after I graduated high school. And I was like, this is ridiculous. That's like, so that means that like in the 80s when I was watching that, 1955 seemed ancient. That means to all these people, 1994 seems ancient. And I'm like, that's not right. That was just yesterday. For me. Anyway, I got digressed.
It hit you a little too close to home.
Yeah. Well, next year it'll have been. This is the thing that really got me, because then I started thinking about it. Sorry, I said I was going to quit, but I'm not. Next year it'll be 10 years past where he went to in the future. So he went 30 years into the future, which was 2015, which means next year will be 40 years into the future for Marty McFly. And we still don't have flying cars. We don't have hoverboards. And we don't have lacing shoes that automatically lace themselves. And shirts and Pizza Hut pizza that you put in the undehydrator. That would have been amazing.
Oh my goodness. So speaking of Pizza Hut, since we're on that topic, did you see with the tech layoffs, Pizza Hut launched the Pizza Hut resume box?
No.
I'll send you a link and I'll post it in our notes. So it is basically they will print your resume on the cover of a Pizza Hut box. So if you want to like send it to a company or whatnot, it basically says like at the top, the border is like a checkerboard border, but then it says like resume, and then it shows like a fake resume in the middle.
This is awesome. And they named him John Doe, Dough.
Yeah, and this one I'm looking at is Mary Nara.
That's awesome.
So Pizza Hut, if you're, I think I just saw, was it Cisco or Oracle just laid off a bunch of people? If you're doing that and trying to find a leg up or stand out, maybe look at ordering Pizza Hut for the company you're applying to, because that would be interesting.
Wow.
I thought about sending it to Lean Techniques with my resume on it. And then last night I was also making the joke of like, do you think people are okay with 2-page resumes now? Because it means they get a second box of pizza.
Oh, jeez.
They're like, somebody's like, that's where the cheese bread goes. Like your second page of your resume.
Amazing. That's yeah. So you got the garlic sticks. That's your resume. That's like your additional stuff. All your certifications, all that stuff.
Yeah. Instead of like a thank you, you just have ordered the HR department Pizza Hut.
Man.
It made me chuckle. I know it's hard out there if people are trying to look for gigs, but
yeah.
It's
I have never seen anything like this where thousands and thousands and thousands of people are getting laid off, and it seems like every day there's 10 more people in my network asking for help finding a job. And I'm just like, I've never been so thankful to have generated my own path than I am right now. And I'm also kind of nervous that like that might dry up because of the same reasons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's just like, but as someone who trains entry-level developers and computer science students, I'm really nervous for all of them, right? They are investing a ton of time and or money or both, into this hope that they're going to find work. And it seems like the entry-level jobs are extremely hard to find right now. So
I would say if you're in college, internships are 100% the way to go. I've it's never been, I don't think, easy. Even when the tech boom, like entry level jobs are always hard because nobody wants to.
Hold your hand.
Yeah, not a lot of companies want to take the time to get you from academia to real world.
Right.
There's a few companies that specialize in that, I think, uh, but interning is probably the best way to start getting some of that, getting in at companies, because then they see it as by the time you graduated, they've already invested that time and they have like
Yeah.
a process to kind of get you there. Microsoft, Amazon, um,
But
even
more than
Source
that,
Allies. Like
you
there's a
just
ton
have a
of.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you just have a chance to get your foot in the door, and they know who you are, and then it's not as hard to get noticed for the next step. It's like you're not just some cold candidate that has a really great academic paper resume without, or academic pizza box resume without them knowing you, though. But I mean, every good job I've ever had has come from people I've known, not from people I didn't know, or from ads on the online. So like, get your internship, and then also like be active in the community. You got to go to groups so people know who you are. Anyway,
I would also say if you do have a gig and it's no better time than now to start networking and building that network. Like you said, Brian, if people know you, they're more willing to give you a job, you know, hire you if you ever run into the situation of where maybe you're looking. So I
right.
would definitely recommend, if you aren't in that boat, start networking, because a network is one of those things. It's like insurance, right? You hope you never use it, but man, when you have it and need it, you're so grateful you do. So
Yeah.
definitely make sure you try to build that
Yeah.
out.
And I just saw a post from our Alec Baldwin guest, Kevin Griffin, that a week ago or so ago about, starting the networking when you need it is too late.
Yeah.
Essentially, you got to have it beforehand. Otherwise, you don't have anything to leverage.
Yeah.
So,
Well, because then, like you said, you're just a no name person posting on LinkedIn or applying to jobs and saying, hey, please uh, let me in, versus
yeah.
having somebody that could even potentially vouch for you, a potential client or company that you're trying to go to, or um, any of that sort of stuff. You'd be surprised how much slicker the process is, or some places even allow you to just skip interview processes.
Nice.
So if you can just, skip an entire process altogether or a round of interviews, like you're one step closer to having a job
Right.
if you get like a referral or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the pizza box, thought that was interesting. I thought it'd be funny to send it to Lean Techniques. Just it's like a joke to everybody, but like, hey, want to
Till
flex on
the
everybody? Look at my resume.
till they're like, did you mean to send this somewhere else and you accidentally sent it here? Are you looking for
Somebody
work, Alec? I'm just kidding.
somebody last night was like, it could be a way to leverage a raise. Just be like, I sent the same pizza box to 10 other companies. It's now the highest bidder. But you just tell your company.
Oh,
Uh, but
that's
well,
funny.
yeah, it's. I've also been told by people before that election years in tech tend to slow down a lot of people's hiring just across the board. So hopefully after November, I saw interest rates I think drop. That hopefully everything starts picking up, and if you're out there having the job struggles, hopefully it'll all pick up and um,
Yeah.
you know, get what you need. With that, I think we were also talking about earlier some AI stuff.
Yep. Not AI taking our jobs, though.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not even close yet. Helping our jobs, not taking our jobs. But anyway, we were talking about possible uses for some of the open AI services at Azure.
Yeah.
and specifically what you've been working with and what I have a need for and things like that. So.
Yeah, we were talking about video translation. I was kind of curious. Have you ever thought about taking your Udemy courses and translating them to different languages?
I've had people tell me they'll do it for me. Like I've had people that are native Spanish speakers reach out to me and be like, "Hey, I will translate all your stuff to Spanish for you for X amount of money."
So Azure does it today for, I think it's, let me double check so I'm not speaking out of turn.
Okay.
I want to say it is, and they don't have, so 11 Labs, I think, is kind of leading the charge in this area right now for video translation. They were the first ones for avatar generation. They will dub and actually like change your lips. So like if you
Okay.
change it to Spanish, it looks like you're speaking Spanish. It's a little
Okay.
interesting. So Azure Video Translation is $1 per output minute, and it'll also give you captions, and it'll translate it to using Azure's, online voice.
Is that per language? So if I wanted in
Yes,
Spanish and
I think
French
so.
and Russian and Hindi, sorry, if I wanted in all of those, I have to pay it for the same thing over and over again.
I think so, yes.
Okay.
So it's $1 per output video minute. So your output video minute, I think, would be, per language then, because you'd be saying,
Sure.
here's my video, put it in Spanish, put it in German, put it in French, put it in Hindi, put it in Mandarin, so on and so forth.
Okay.
But I was just curious if you've thought about that, or if, I think it'd be cool if you just have like the video that then supports every language, and if you see like a huge uptick of, hey, now that I have intro to, because you have an intro to Git course, right?
I have a Git. A couple of ones. I also have a Java course that I really need to redo. I did it in, well, probably 2012. Honestly,
Uh,
I think the videos are Windows Media videos, WMV files. I don't even think you could load them today. Surprised they still run. But yeah,
I think it'd be cool to see that if you did something like that, if you just saw like a huge uptick in your courses, because like you were you'd pay what? So for an hour video, $60.
yeah. I mean, so like my intro to Git or my intro to programming courses, they're run about 9 hours, right? So 9 hours of video content. So we're talking, what's that? 9
So
times
9
60,
times
540
60.
bucks. About $600. If it was $600 to do that to Spanish, that's still less than the Spanish person wanted probably than to actually do it with their voice. And I mean, it's not going to be my voice, is it? It's going to be
No. Yeah, it'll
Alexa
be,
or whatever their Microsoft Luis or whatever his name is.
there's a bunch of different voices you could pick from. So it will either do the closest one to your voice, so the one off the shelf that they think sounds the closest like you in that language,
Yeah.
or I think you could specifically specify like this is the off the shelf voice I want it to use.
Now, could I use my own voice, Alec?
You can. That is how you spend a lot of money, though.
Well,
So
how
you
much is
do
a
have.
lot?
I knew you were going to ask me about this.
Thousands of dollars a month,
So I'm gonna pull it
thousands of
up.
dollars a day.
I'm pulling it up here because
Yeah.
I maybe or maybe have not done this before. Um,
And by pulling it up, you mean you maybe or maybe not pulling up the bill? But,
so the speaker voice, if you want to have your own custom voice, personal voice, the voice creation is free. Oh, where is it? Here it is. The endpoint hosting is $4 per model per hour.
$4 per model per hour. Model
Yep.
meaning your voice or
Person. Yes.
okay. So if I want to store my voice, I'm going to be paying 4 times 24. So just under $100 a day, roughly.
And then 30. It's $4.04. So
Yeah.
I think that's come down since I used it, but
Still, that's $100 a day times 30 days is $3,000 a month.
Yep,
on a
that's about
light.
right.
Yeah, it's about right there, right? So put that out there for a year. That's $36,000 to store your voice. So that's what James Earl Jones Darth Vader voice is costing right now, right? I'm
At
sorry.
least.
Yeah, because I mean, that's a crazy thing that we do have that ability now. We can have future Darth Vader in James Earl Jones's voice without him even being alive anymore.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
It is crazy how you can do that, and the training is super easy because I did that with my voice, as Brian was hinting at, and then left it because I read the pricing table wrong. If you
Mm.
actually look at the personal voice, the synthesizing it says is $24 per 1 million characters. The voice creation it says is free. The profile storage it says is $600 per 1,000 voice profiles per month. However, you don't see the endpoint hosting. I can share my screen with you, Brian, so you can see what I'm looking at.
Okay.
And I'll share the link, or if you just go out to Azure Voice, you'll see what I'm talking about. Right here. This is the part that, if you look at this chart, looks like it's only professional voice, which I
Okay.
think is the more robust one,
Sure.
which does cost a lot more to train. All of that.
Up to $5,000 for training,
Yeah, which
plus
makes sense because they do it over
$4 an hour.
days. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the personal voice um, is what I thought I was doing. So I thought it was just
Mm.
like once you did it, it was free. It sat out there,
Sure.
and you paid as you used it. I did not. I got charged definitely for the endpoint hosting, and that was about over $3,000.
Okay.
Which, luckily, kudos to Microsoft because they didn't have to do this, but they did. I sent an email and was like, "I'm so sorry, I screwed up." I feel like everybody in the cloud has their "oh my god" Bill moment.
Yep.
It's like a rite of passage. So that was mine. Um,
It's like deleting the table with a delete statement because you forgot to add the where clause.
yeah,
It's like everybody has that. Well, maybe not anymore. Back in the day, we all used to have that moment. Somebody knows what I'm talking about that's listening. Now it's oops, we got a $10,000 cloud bill this month that we shouldn't have got. What the heck are you doing?
yeah. So that was on my personal subscription. So I messaged Microsoft and was like, "Hey, I screwed up. I'm sorry." And they're like, "Oh, no worries," and just like forgave it, and it didn't even hit my credit card. Which,
Thank goodness.
yeah, they were just like, "Hey, just be a little more careful next time." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm not going to touch custom voice ever again." But if you have a big budget, or if you're in like Microsoft for startups where you get like $250,000, if you qualify for all of it, like you could just host a voice. Maybe $3,000 a month isn't much for you. I've been
Mhm.
told in the world of voice hosting too, that's fairly cheap. I'm not in that space. If I pay more than like $10 in Azure, I don't like to do that if I can help it. So
Okay.
hundreds or thousands is way outside of what I'm normally paying for on my own stuff that I goof around with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you could do that. You could record your voice. If you do the professional voice, they can actually make you speak Spanish, I believe.
There we go. That's what I want.
So it could be Brian Gorman talking like this, but in Spanish. It'll sound like you. It'll just speak Spanish. But
So
again, you saw that's
I
up to $5,000 just to train it.
I saw a comedian video going around on Facebook, and the comedian was doing a Hispanic impression, and I can't believe, like, in today's world, like, that they're not fear of getting canceled for something like that, honestly. So, like, I was about to do me in Spanish, like, I know no Spanish, but I was going to do something. I'm like, oh no, that's probably not a good idea. So maybe
It
Microsoft can do a better job.
Well, and it's not just you doing a bad Spanish accent, right? It'd be you speaking Spanish
That's what I'm saying.
just with your voice and dialect. So it's like, and
you,
I
you
assume,
admit it. You're hearing it in your head right now. But
I assume it would. So like all of their other languages, there's a bunch of regional dialects too. So like you might even be able to go down to like Spain Spanish or Mexico Spanish, or like it has a bunch of different regional dialects. So not only
Okay.
could you speak Spanish, you could speak that regional dialect and accent too, potentially.
So how does that work with like Hindi? Because doesn't like India have like a bunch of different dialects based on like Punjab and or is that even a different language, Punjabi? I don't know. I don't know
I
much,
am
but
ignorant, but we can look.
yeah.
Let's pull up Speech Studio,
Okay.
uh, and we can check it out because I can show you what I'm talking about with Spanish, and maybe we can see Hindi as well. So if you go to video translation, create a project, we can say from English to, you said Hindi.
Yeah, to Hindi.
The only Hindi they have is India.
Is there Punjabi then or something like that?
Um, yeah,
Yeah, okay. So yeah, so there's different dialect. That's a different considered a different language then. So that's the same thing as like French and Spanish
it looks like Oria is also there.
for India.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wonder if those might be maybe different languages, but if you
Yeah.
look at like if we go to
Yeah.
like Spanish, you have Argentinian Spanish, you have Bolivian Spanish, you have Chilean Spanish, you have Colombian Spanish, like all these different like they're all classified as Spanish, but they're like regional dialects
There
apparently.
are a ton. Are there regional for English? Do we have like Southern English? Because that would be amazing.
We have Australian for sure.
Okay.
Australian, Canadian, Hong Kong, India, Ireland, Kenyan English, New Zealand, Nigerian, Philippines,
Please be
Singapore.
South Carolina. Please be South Carolina English in there or Mississippi English in there.
There is not. There's just United States.
Oh man, that's such a letdown. I've never been less disappointed in my life.
There's some real thick ones that like how would that work? I even think of like
Texan. We at least need a Texas English. Can somebody please get Matthew McConaughey's voice on this thing? Please?
oh rat, oh rat, oh rat.
That'd be amazing.
Oh my god. That'd be awesome. There's a bunch for French too. Yeah.
Although
There's just a bunch of different languages here.
They don't want to have the what's her name? Scarlett Johansson problem that the other AI people might have had.
Yeah. Probably not. So
Matthew McConaughey probably isn't a good idea unless you get him to sign off on it.
I was gonna say, yeah, if you do a custom voice, there's a whole waiver you have to sign and whatnot. So if he signs off on it, go
what
wild.
If I did a custom voice and I used a Matthew McConaughey accent myself? Would they be able to like Sean Connery? Listen, Trebek.
That's still you, so I would think technically that's okay, right?
I mean, is it though? We're in such a weird world now. Because what if you could what's Frank Caliendo? What if you're Frank Caliendo? That dude could sound like anybody, right? And you could literally record your voice, but you could be sounding like John Madden, or that was one he always did, or like Barack Obama, or Trump, or whoever, somebody famous that could really cause a stink.
Yeah, I don't know how that because Neil deGrasse Tyson also has a very unique voice. Like if you could just do an impression so well, and then it's like
talk about flat Earth and Neil deGrasse Tyson's voice, he'd be livid.
Like I don't know how that works.
I'm sure it's the responsible AI thing, right? Don't you sign a waiver to do this that says you won't do things like that?
There's for custom voice, there is a thing. Where is it? There's voice talent consent that is required for deploying, which is something that you have to actually like get signed and upload so Microsoft can keep the keep it on file.
Okay.
I don't know how that works though. If you're like purposely, because like you could argue that somebody out there sounds like Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? Like
I've got a student right now, and I want her to say a bunch of things because she sounds exactly like Kamala Harris. Like if you close your eyes, you'd think it's Kamala.
Right. So it's like that person, if you took their voice, you're not doing it as a bit, right? It's their real voice. It gets
Exactly.
into a weird area though, because if she starts speaking politics, you could be like, well, maybe she's trying to deceive people to sound like Kamala Harris.
Right.
Is that I don't know how that works in copyright. Because you'd also have like the voice actors of like different things. That's not their real voice, right? They're doing it as a bit. But if you just found somebody who sounds exactly like you, I don't know how copyright law would work there.
Yeah.
I assume there's probably like some IP around like some big name celebrities, right? Of um especially like the way they talk, right? If you put it out there and the bit was that, hey, maybe this is my real voice, but you're doing it with the goal to deceive people,
Yeah.
it's kind of gross. But if it's like, hey, um I don't know, even if you use like custom avatars, it's weird because a custom avatar, no matter which gender or avatar you pick, you can pick any voice for it. So I'm just trying to think of like if you picked like Obama, for example, and put it on an avatar, it's like, okay, well, that's very obviously not Obama, but it sounds just like him.
Yeah.
But if your voice actor was somebody who just so happened to sound like Obama without trying, I don't know. You've definitely found the gray area there, I think, of,
Yeah.
or like, I think of like an Eric Cartman, right? Of like South Park. Like that person's a character. In order to talk exactly like that person, I haven't heard anybody who does.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Hold on. Just give me a second. Setting up in cars full of urgency. I got to be free. Free to face the life that's ahead of me. And then I'm a captain, so climb aboard. Sorry, I'll stop now.
But like that point, the bit was that you sounded like him, not that's your real voice. So I would
Right.
say that probably counts as not okay.
Yeah, not only that, but we just are getting sued by Styx now for using "Come Sail Away" in our podcast without their permission. Was that long enough to qualify for public use or whatever the Creative Commons license would cover on that? I think it was. I don't think it was too long. I think we'll be okay. The 7 listeners that we have won't report us, so we'll be fine.
I mean, yeah. I don't know how that works, but it's definitely in a gray area. They say there's. I would assume that Microsoft and others have like some big name, like there has to be something because you can upload audio for the more professional voice.
Okay.
So like even if you wanted to pay a bunch of money, I would imagine there's some safeguards in there so that you can like create a Kamala voice dupe or like a Trump voice dupe of just like taking a bunch of their recordings,
Right.
uploading it to Microsoft, and now, hey, my model speaks like the 2 presidential candidates.
Sure, because you could. I mean, if you really were so inclined, you could just record hours of a debate and you'd be fine.
Yeah, like
Right.
you'd have I'm sure or like you and I, right? Like you could probably find 20 to 40 hours or 300 to 2,000 recorded utterances, which just means like sentences essentially.
Oh, so this is going to be like sneakers. My name is Werner Brandis. My voice is my passport. Verify me.
So you can't tell me that you wouldn't be able to find like that many utterances by you, me, any sort of public figure. Like it'd be easy, right? Just go to like any famous celebrity, pull enough movies.
Right.
You
That's
got
why they need to
300
almost
different
have
lines.
like you have to say within the next 5 minutes, you have to say this specific phrase.
Right. It's like CAPTCHA, but for voice.
Right. Prove you're not a robot.
Say this out loud. So I would imagine there might be that. The one on the left, the lightweight one, you read off like their script, so you wouldn't be able to really fake it. The right one, you can upload, I think, videos, and there's upload audio. There's also sample scripts. So I'm wondering if maybe on the right one they have some safeguards in place, or maybe I'm completely wrong and you do have to actually record their script or record something live so they know that you're doing it live.
Why don't you try it again and see what happens?
Because I'm not paying $5,000 to train on the up to $5,000 for the 20 to 40 compute hours required to train
Nice.
a multi-cycle voice. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. Like, hey, if Microsoft's listening and they want to give it to me for free, I'll gladly go out to the public and show people how great it is. But
Yeah.
$5,000 just to train it, and then $4 an hour per voice just to host it. That gets really expensive very quickly.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm trying to think. My Visual Studio Enterprise subscription probably isn't big enough to do that. At least
No.
even to get through the first.
Visual Studio Enterprise is at max $150 a month.
Right. So it wouldn't even get through the training, let alone unless I could do like multi-months of training.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, I get the first $4 or however many hours $4 buys me of a month that it'll.
Well, $150 is still gonna you'd have enough, I think. It's gonna be no wait, that's a day. I'm sorry. That's like a day and a half. It'd be done.
Yeah. So I have 37 hours, 37 and a half hours to use it on the first of every month.
Oh, so it's like Azure Charts.
What's that?
It's like Azure Charts. That poor site.
What's Azure Charts?
Oh, you don't know what Azure Charts is? It's like the best site in the whole world, but it's always down because everybody uses it, and it goes past its like free spending limit every month.
Yeah, I do know what this site is. We've talked about this.
Yeah, it's funny to me because you go to a talk at a tech conference and somebody wants to pull up Azure Charts and they pull it up and it's like, this chart is currently down due to spending limits, right? Because it's like the most popular tool that somebody built. I don't know who built it. Kudos to the person that built this, because everybody uses it, but it's not sponsored. So if you're someone who's looking for something to sponsor, reach out to whoever made Azure Charts. I have no skin in this game at all, but I'll tell you that everybody else does because they love it's one of the most popular non-sponsored sites of all time, in my personal humble opinion. Anyway, sorry.
There's an Azure quiz. What protects your applications from a DDoS attack?
A little
Front
guy.
door?
No, it's the DDoS services on a firewall or Azure. It's like 1,000. It's like that's the most expensive service. I turned that thing on by accident, and it was it's almost $100 a day. It's like $90 a day.
Wow.
Yeah, for the it's like $3,000 a month, just like your voice thing, and all it is, it's a advanced threat detection, DDoS. You put the policy on your firewall.
It's right here, DDoS protection.
There you go. Yeah, it's expensive. Jeez.
Cool.
Yeah, these questions are impossible.
I don't know this chart or like the breakdown of the thing well enough to say like, oh, here's where it would be in this column.
Right.
Like send push notifications to any platform would be. What branch would that be under? Development?
I don't. Maybe? There was that one thing, that one service that used to be really important and talked about all the time. I can't remember what it's called now. That did all this.
I'm just gonna get it wrong. Notification Hub.
Yeah, that one. And somebody listening is like Notification Hub expert or product owner, like, what do you mean used to be important? Right? Azure Notification Hubs. It's you got to know that, right?
HPC cache is for high compute or file caching for high performance computing.
Jeez.
Deploy Grafana dashboards as a fully managed Azure service. I know there's a Cosmos Grafana integration, but I don't think that's where the dashboard lives. It's not App Insights, is it?
I don't know.
I doubt it. I don't use Grafana. Let's say Fabric. Oh no. Oh, it's managed Grafana has dashboards.
See, and you wouldn't even know that's there if you didn't know that was a service, right? Managed Grafana. That must be pretty new. Because it used to be that they would we would talk about Grafana as an option, but Power BI is really Microsoft's backbone reporting service. So there must have been enough community demand for Grafana that they brought it in. Anyway,
the other thing that's weird is so I'm looking for App Insights, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not under analytics.
It'd be under Monitor, Azure Monitor.
Oh, well, that wasn't even the right answer. They wanted Synapse Analytics for
limitless analytics service with unmatched time to insight. Azure
Synapse. App Insights,
well, of course.
Delay.
Well, I think they're looking for something else on that.
Anyway, Azure Charts is fun. You should check it out if you want to learn some stuff.
Yeah.
But I should say with that, I think we probably have a good episode to close out here. Is there any call to actions you have, Brian, or anywhere you're speaking at anytime soon?
Maybe Iowa Code Camp. I'm still waiting to hear. That's in October. Nice. And then I think, a lot of people have their hopes on Code Mesh for January. Tech Bash is coming up next week. It'll be probably by the time you hear this episode already over. I'm not at that one, but that's out on the East Coast in the Poconos. So if you're in that area, check it out. What else do we got going on? NDC London just selected all their speakers. That's in February in London.
Did you make it?
No, I did not, and that's okay. Congratulations to those who did, and I'm sure you'll have a great time because they put on a fantastic conference. And then that'll start cycling back around for next year pretty quick here. I think Build Stuff usually does something in November. I didn't look into their stuff this year because I had so much on my plate I didn't even look, but they usually do something that's usually in the where's Chernobyl? Kiev, Ukraine area, something like that. It's kind of near Chernobyl. Anyway, I don't really know enough about it, but somewhere over there, Build Stuff. And of course, NDC Porto. I think they have one in Copenhagen. But no, I'm not doing any of these, unfortunately. I'm doing nothing.
October 17th, I think, is the date. Let me double check. We're putting on an AI workshop, a hands-on workshop that anybody's invited to go to for AI work. So if you're free October 17th, the plan is from 3 to about 7-ish. We will have people and do some AI hands-on workshops. So
GitHub Universe is doing some free stuff too. So look into that online.
Yeah,
if you're
that's
interested
another good call out.
Just free stuff that anybody can sign up for online. ChatGPT, Copilot stuff. Sorry, GitHub doesn't use ChatGPT. They use Copilot. That's what I meant to say out loud.
I will say the our AI workshop, we're trying to do hybrid. We have a place in Kansas City. That announcement's coming out soon. A place in Des Moines, and still looking for a place in Omaha. So if you're in either of those metro areas or close, feel free to pop by.
Nice.
I'm trying to buy food better than pizza, so it might be a little bit nicer dinner too for people to show up. So cool. Feel free to check it out. Anyway, with that, I'm going to end the recording. See everybody next week.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, Brian.